Hello, you're listening to the OmniTalk Fast 5, brought to you in partnership with Microsoft, the A&M Consumer and Retail Group, Takeoff, Sezzle, and Silk.
All right, headline number 2. Last Thursday, Gap officially launched its own store on Amazon. According to CNN, the new partnership with Amazon Fashion marks the first time that Gap itself is selling its products on the online marketplace. None of the Gap items are exclusive to Amazon. However, they will also be available for purchase in Gap stores and on Gap.com. Amazon said items from Gap store will be included for Prime delivery. Billy,
yes.
for you, what do you think of this move by the Gap? Is it about time, or is this something they should never, ever have considered doing? How would you advise people to think about this question?
I don't think my first opinion on this is going to be a hot opinion at that, and that's that this is going to benefit Amazon more than it's going to benefit Gap.
Okay.
This right from a marketplace perspective, right? Amazon makes money on it if something's sold through their, because this is really a marketplace concept. So that, one is it benefits them. Two, this unfortunately for me just also rings hollow when it comes to Gap and an overarching strategy of where they're going. I mean, Gap is an iconic American brand. I mean, I think back to my teenage years, and Gap was it.
Mm-hmm.
And through the years, right, just it hasn't evolved, and that's a well-documented occurrences. But I look at this and think, where's the strategy? Because all of the things that the Gap has done over the years, especially in recent years, right? You look at the tie-up with Kanye West, you look at, the Gap Home and Walmart, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things are just, it's so scattershot that this just being another thing to me, what's missing for me is where's the strategy? How does this tie into a strategy for the Gap brand? This just to me looks like, again, it's, oh, here's another thing, let's go for it. Oh, and so I'm hopeful that this does good things for Gap, just because I still have a great affinity for the brand and for the company. I'm just not sold that this is going to be beneficial to them at all.
Interesting. I'm curious. Anne, what do you think? Do you think this is a harbinger of more things to come, or do you think it's more of like a scattershot move from the Gap as Billy's describing it?
Well, I think so. I actually have a question for Billy before I get into my analysis, because I'm curious. I understand your perspective, Billy, but when does this make sense for a retailer? Like both for you and Jonathan, when you're working, you are operations backgrounds, and I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about this. We've seen several brands go to Amazon. When does it make sense for them to consider this as part of that strategy instead of being, just a scattered, we'll try this, try that?
I've always taken the opinion that if distribution is an issue for you, or expanding distribution is an issue for you, then Amazon, whether it's a short-term or a long-term play, is something that absolutely should be looked into. Gap doesn't have a distribution issue.
Right.
Gap is so spread out and has so many distribution centers across the country, and has that network that they've got already. In fact, I mean, there's news about them trying to leverage that as an income stream. So it doesn't in the way I think about retailers or big brand name retailers partnering with Amazon. It doesn't really fit the thesis that I typically look for, which is all around distribution.
Jonathan, what do you think?
So just maybe a counterpoint. I don't disagree with much of what Billy said in terms of, you'll search for a Gap strategy in vain over the last few months and years. But one potential benefit, and one area where it might make sense, is it does allow them to now control pricing and get out of minimum advertised pricing problems with Amazon and their product through third parties. So I think that is helpful for them. They can now manage being undercut by third parties on Amazon. The other thing that I was thinking about, in the spirit of this, the way Billy posed the question of kind of, is this Amazon strength or Gap weakness? The only slight thing it raised for me is, what does this mean about Amazon Fashion and Amazon Basics? What's going on there? There's just raised a little question for me about that.
Yeah, Jonathan, that's actually exactly what I think was kind of my thought about this story when I first read it. I actually think that this might be a good play for Gap, because I think you have Amazon Essentials, which is, the baseline this is just standard stuff. You know, it's going to be fast fashion, kind of cheaper product. I do think, like Billy was saying, like Gap's an iconic brand. Like there's a level of quality, I think, that people have come to expect through the years, that this kind of provides Amazon shoppers a good, better, best option to go to. And, you know, Amazon Essentials maybe being the baseline, but then Gap being a little bit more durable, higher quality product. And then I think you do get the benefit now of, as a Gap purchaser, like they do have logistics, but you have to wait 5 to 7 days to get something from Gap right now. And so being able to get that Gap product, not have to go into a mall in a couple of days, I think that there may be more value, or there may be more strategy than meets the eye in this one.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And then we'll go to Billy. I'll go to you for the last word. But the thing I would add to what you just said, Ann, is if you actually look at how this shows up on Amazon, it's very much designed for a basics like shopping experience. Like the things you want to go get at the Gap, because it's a search experience. It's not inspirational at all. People go online, look at it. It's not inspirational at all. It's just the standard cut and dry Amazon experience. And it's a Gap branded shop, which was totally not what I expected. So I think you're right. My point on it though is like, I just feel like Amazon's America's mall at this point. Like, why wouldn't you just distribute there? You know, like it's the same as paying a leasing fee to like one of the mall operators. Like, why wouldn't you just do this? Like, what's the downside in it at this point? Billy, last word.
Yeah, and it's funny that you said that, because actually the last point the last thing that came to mind in this is when I think about this as potentially not beneficial for, you know, Gap in a financial sense, is what is this going to do in terms of driving traffic to their stores? Right. This is and I agree with you wholeheartedly. Yeah. Amazon is America's mall at this point in time.
Yeah.
But the price of being in that mall is you're taking away from your owned properties today. And what does that mean for their future in brick and mortar retail?
That's a good point.
And how is this going to maybe, you know, the Gap did go online 100%, right, in the UK in recent months or in the last 12 months, right? Yeah. I'm wondering how much of that experience has influenced their decision here, and is that foreboding of what's to come for the Gap brand in the United States?
Yeah, or other apparel retailers too.